Boz
has spoken.
Welcome to the Land of Boz with Jeff Bosley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to technically the first video version of the Land of Boz. It's episode 70, and to commemorate episode 70, I have an ex-friend turned new friend, Mike Foster, in the house. That was like the shitty Terminator when they went back with not Genesis, but like where they had Arnold, like it was Arnold's. It was that new. It was like Roland Kicklinger's body, but Arnold's head. Yeah.
Salvation.
Exactly. I like Salvation.
I'm just looking around here, man. It's like, it's been a long time since I've been in the Land of Boz. It's pretty great.
I don't wish anybody in the Land of Boz.
Well, I wished myself into this one. So
that's an LSD trip. Well, what we should do first is I'll say how we know each other, and then you kind of this is a mutual friendship relationship here. You know, it's not just my show, and then you talk about yourself a little bit too. And
no. Why don't you go ahead and build me up so I don't have to brag about myself later, right, Harry?
Nice. So, long story short, Mike and I. He's 6'5" also. Are you about 6'5", 6'6"? You're a little taller than me, I think.
Well, I was going to say, it depends. Are we doing it on how you do your auditions? Like,
no, real world.
Jeff Bosley.
No, outside of those two things, this is uncensored.
I'm 6'6".
Okay. What Mike's alluding to in the Hollywood world is you'll white lie to cater to the role so you get the job. Obviously, Mike and I aren't going to go for little people roles, but because it's a catch-22, giant guys, there's very few auditions for us, but when there are, it's a narrow fucking window. Like there's only like 7 of us. But at the same time, as a result, there's only like 1 audition a year, you know? So, but anyway, as a result, Mike, every time I saw an audition or anybody, like Mike and I have a handful of friends, Kaz and other people, I'd see the same dudes. It was like just a hallway of WWF looking guys. And I probably was the least WWF looking of all of us, but I was the fucking tallest, you know, like, so yeah, Mike and I met in Hollywood. I was doing the couch surfing thing. He and his better half kindly let me survive there for a while. And I was actually, this sounds gross because I was thinking in the shower, but dudes, if we're shitting or showering, that's where we do tons of thinking. So it's not like I was thinking like, hey, I'm in the shower, let me think of Mike. It was just like, well, this is my thinking time. But I was thinking in the shower before this, I was like, how am I going to address this? But Mike and I had a what we call it a breakup as a joke, like a straight breakup, to be clear, because the world we live in. And the short version, and I have no like censorship, I'm just trying to keep it short because I ramble. I think survival mode, and I'm not excusing my actions, but I think survival mode, the worst it got for me in LA, the worse the further I deviated from kind of who I was. You know, not like I was sacrificing Mike's dog or anything for a role in Hollywood, but it definitely changed my decision-making process. And so Mike and I had not even a fallout. We just we called it good, said there were some things to go our separate ways. And we had a several-year breakup. And to Mike's credit, due to technology and an app Betty and I actually use, Marco Polo, he reached out and offered I don't know, you're Mr. Better at religion than I am. An olive branch, is that the phrase?
All right, here's the deal. If you want to look at it,
you're just frothing at the bit, just going, I got so much to say.
No. I just look at it like this. If you want to do the secular bit, it's the "My name is Earl" thing, right? I was going to go through and do that.
Ooh,
if
like
it's
that.
the religious thing, it's when Peter asks Jesus, you know, like, and not that there was any forgiveness needed. It was just the whole, like, you know, making sure that, I don't know the way I would say it in my new to reading the Bible. It's funny, when I moved down here to the South, I live in Alabama now, after I fled Hollywood, and everybody, I'd ask them like, so what's the knock on us Catholics? And they'd be like, y'all don't read the Bible. So now that I'm reading the Bible, I realize there's a part in the Bible where Peter says to Jesus, like, what do I forgive them? Like 7 times? And Jesus like, you forgive them 7 times 70. I actually got this hat from
forever.
Right. So do you remember Lucas Black, that actor that was the little boy Frankie in Sling Blade, and then he was in that Tokyo Drift movie? And
that sadly, Sling Blade wasn't the reference. Sadly, Tokyo Drift was my reference. Here I am arguing making quality movies, and now that's my reference is dog shit movies.
One of the early Fast and Furious movies. But he lives about 35 minutes west of me out in Decatur, and I saw that he's got this shirt that says "Bring Mass." You know, we all have our merch stores.
Yep.
And his has got got the Bring Masculinity back, and it was 70 times
Nice.
7. I was like, I don't know what this is. And then I looked it up and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So, but anyway, the point is that it was just, to say something a little bit about you coming into the house after we met, we worked together, and I know you needed a hand, and it's just, we're all hypocrites, but I try really hard not to be one, and it's like, I'm always wearing shirts like support the troops and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So when you and I knew your story and we talked, I was, I talked to my wife about it. At the time was my girlfriend. I was just like,
right.
we talk about this, helping folks out, yet we've got a chance to like really help somebody right here that really did serve our country. And she's like, amen. And I'm like, plus we ski a lot, and it's not the worst thing in the world to have a green beret at our house when we're gone, right?
Yes. I came with built-in security features.
So
no, and I'm not kissing your ass because we're recording and doing this, but like sincerely, and I would say this behind your back too, like you've never been a hypocrite to almost to an envious fault, to be honest with you. And I don't think there's a difference between like hypocrisy and just kind of turning off kind of active involvement. And I would say you reacted, and I'm not trying to be a martyr here, but you reacted to the situation and just went kind of turned off your level of involvement. That doesn't to me translate to hypocrisy, so I think there's a difference there.
Did we ever talk about actually what happened, since we're getting raw and uncensored here?
I know I made some shitty decisions and I wasn't holding up like that stuff, like that depth.
I just remember the day it happened is, like I said, we were skiing, and I picked up skiing at, 43, 44. So
it makes my knees hurt just thinking about it.
Right. No moguls. And I remember I came down, we were out at Big Bear Snow Summit, and it was like, you can go right to the sidewalk. And I just learned how to turn. I'm like, I'm going to be cool. And I got right down to where Karina, my girlfriend, I hurt my knee and I couldn't walk. And it just so happened is whenever it rained in Los Angeles, the snowstorm was happening in the mountains.
You would think I have TBIs. I'm now remembering all this and I completely had forgotten it.
All right. And it was the deal with our house for what? I mean, LA, it was like for how many years it never rained.
Yeah.
And it finally did. And we had water coming through the light bulbs.
It was the rain apocalypse. Yeah.
It was the rain apocalypse. So our house was not waterproof. And that's when I said something to you like, hey, can you give me a hand getting these fans? And I can barely walk. And I know that. And again, to your credit, you are, honest to God, Jeff, you are one of the most focused, as you would say, OCD, but you're one of the most focused human beings I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And you were like, today's a work day. I got to do this, got to do this. And then when Karina got home from work, she's like, well, did Jeff help you? I'm like, well, he's got a work day. And she's like, what?
Yeah.
And it was like the whole thing. And it was, anyway, it was one of those.
And it's deals. And I've said that multiple times. And I mean, it's a topic of tons of my podcasts and everything is like, work ethic is admirable until you make shitty decisions. And, and as a result, not like disclaimer, Jeff, I'm not excusing it, but you look at the people who are like The Rock or whoever, and they're like, oh, I wish I would have been more, involved in my family. It's like, no, had you actually done what you say you should have done now, you wouldn't be where you are. You had to have 3 divorces. You had to have ex-friends. You had to have ex-girlfriends to get where you had to get to this level. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but and this is like my little huggy moment is like, luckily it circled back to when those things, thank Christ, it didn't pay. I don't want to say paid off. That's not the right word, but it didn't, it wasn't forever for the 7 times 7 for lack of better comparison. So, cause I got to a point where, and I think again, it's a weird, I have less head fuckery from combat than I do LA. And I think I look back and because I actually had shortly after you, this is a whole nother story, but another friend of mine, almost a comparable situation. And so I'm not that obtuse to go, in this equation, what's the common denominator? Mike and this other friend. And then who's the common denominator in these 2 stories? Jeff. I'm not like that obscure, but same thing. We had a quote unquote breakup or whatever you want to call it. And it was never like one of those, like, I don't know about you, but when you have friends or exes where you're like, you want it to be a definitive termination. Like if it's a girl, you want it to be an affair. You want no confusion about this thing ending. When it's like nebulous, it's kind of hard. You're like, ugh, you want to earn that thing. And ours was the same way. Her and I, and she's a platonic friend. Her and I's was the same way. So it was just kind of like, ugh, I didn't wish you to get hit by a bus. I didn't wish her. I hope vice versa. But at the same time, it was kind of like, you got to move on, or just, like there's this whole like get old life bullshit. You're like, whatever. And her and I reconnected for this actually just relatively recently. And I was like, oh, thank God, I feel like a dick. So that got deep. This was supposed to be about body dysmorphia.
No, that's well. This is actually we're talking more mental dysmorphia, now, you know.
Yeah.
But, well, no, I mean it's true.
Sounds like something Rocky would say. I got the mental dysmorphia.
You know, it's like, but hey, I was rooting for you when you.
What did he say? Mentally irregular?
Yeah, I'm a little mentally irregular. That was great. No, but truth, man. When we had our little, our little separation there, I totally I'd see online what you were doing for Reacher thing. I was rooting for you, man. I mean, it's like, if anyone was born to play that role, I'm thinking, I know that you've talked about this in some of your other podcasts that I listen to, but it's like, just because you're a Green Beret doesn't mean you get to play a Green Beret. I get 100%. All that, but it's like someone that was built like you, your acting chops, the whole shebang. And then can I say what I'm allowed to say here?
Yeah.
Can I say?
Outside of those two things.
Seeing what a tool bag Alan Richson is, it's just like, I wanted Jeff to get it, man. I'm like, really? I mean, it's like, who is this guy? So yeah. Anyway, I won't get too deep on that, but I was just like, I saw him and I was like, at first I was like, okay, he seems like a good enough guy. And then
I literally put out a video the day it got cast. And I think, did you audition, if you don't mind me asking? Okay.
Oh, can I tell you a quick story?
Please.
I did. I
got to take notes.
If
you see me, a little disclaimer, I might edit this part out. If you see me looking away and everything, it's because I'm running 9,000 things. You do have my attention. I promise you. I'm not tweeting. I'm not tweeting.
I know you, right?
I know, but I give a shit.
I appreciate that.
All right, so continue the whole your Reacher story.
No, it was just kind of crazy because maybe it was similar for you, but I did that second Borat movie, subsequent movie film or whatever. A good friend of mine is a stunt coordinator, and he's like, hey, and it turned out to be very, very profitable. But he's like, hey, can you come out to it was like right where Virginia and Maryland and DC kind of come together. They were having that CPAC thing, the Republican convention, and Borat was doing his whole thing where he goes in and acts like he's Donald Trump. Anyway, long story short, I literally was getting on the plane. Oh, and I get an email from my agent, and I'm like looking, and it's like, dude, biggest role ever, blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, and it says, and it's due tomorrow, and I'm like, what? And I look, and it's the Jack Reacher, and it's the scene where that first scene in the coffee shop, and he's got to say like, and I noticed this and this, and there's like a majillion. There was like 13 pages, and I was like, it's. And it's like I had to memorize that, and I didn't have anybody to read with, so I literally met one of the other guys, not name dropping, but his name's Kevin Foster, coincidentally, and he was the guy. If you watched Iron Man, remember at the beginning when he's in the tank with him, or the Humvee, and he's like, hey, can I get a picture? Dudes? And he's like, yeah, and he's like, can I get a picture? And he's like, don't throw up any gang signs. I'm just kidding.
That was him? Oh, no shit.
Yeah, it's him. He's the stunt guy. But I looked at him. I was like, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, would you read with me tomorrow? So anyway, that's my
Hollywood
story.
In a nutshell, basically.
Right. I had 16 hours maybe to get that thing done and in 13 pages. And I didn't have my computer to do the whole, not that I'm giving away a little cheat code, but there's something called a teleprompter.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be us like 9,000 side tangents I'm going to have to keep track of. But there's actually a rule now from SAG where if it's a SAG audition, they actually have to. They're limited to only so many pages, and the expected turnaround time now is now standardized. Mm-hmm. Whether people are going to honor that is a whole other story. But Mike is tangent number 7. You're a little bit more in a no pun intended liberated state when it comes to the Hollywood machine, and that's we could have 9,000 podcasts on 9 different topics here. So that's very liberating as far as that. And obviously I'm a little diplomatic and careful, but I actually had a plant in the casting office told me. My management and agents, who at the time, my agent was okay. My manager I still have and love. It didn't get released to her. They can only, so the way it works is it's not a blast released. It's released to certain tiers of reps. And she's actually the president of the Talent Managers Association. So how she didn't get blasted, that she knew, her one client that's 6.5 feet tall, and had been fighting for 2 years for Reacher. She didn't get it. I got somebody did a screenshot from the office of the Actors Access thing and sent me a text message and goes, hey, the audition's out. And I was like, quoi? It's French for what? So I messaged her, and then she went in the front door and said, hey, we want to submit that versus the other way around. So, and it was the exact same scene and the whole 9 yards. And and after here's the dog shit thing. I don't know if I ever told you, like after, the 2 years thing, the fan film, meeting the author, like as you aren't surprised, I was all in, like all the fucking, like I said multiple times, if I don't get this, I'm going to move to a cabin and cry. And I'm still lingering on that. However, I've seen the show, and as a fan, not the guy who auditioned, it seems like a CW show. Like it's this weird, I would have felt, yeah. So that's a whole other thing. But the day they notified, like it was like multiple stages in, as you know how it goes. And even then they didn't tell anybody. Like deep into the first, third, fifth cuts, I found out on Deadline, and I was like, oh, I guess I didn't get it. And I was like, and much of a movie nerd is, I didn't know who the hell this dude was. I was like, people are like, oh, he's Aquaman. I was like, who? Like I had no idea who this guy was. And on first, I just Googled. I was like, yeah, fuck this dude, blonde giant. Jack Reacher's blonde and a giant. All right. And I literally, I think I kept the video up to show that I'm willing to like honor my whatever the fucks. But I posted a video that day, and I was like, hey, I look at him. I would cast him too. I don't know him from Adam, but look at him. Like, and in the books, Reacher is not he's not a pretty boy. Alan is kind of pretty. So
my wife would actually agree with you on that.
But it's Hollywood. They're not they want it to be appealing versus accurate, and so that's a whole nother side story. But
yeah,
where the fuck did we go? So yeah, check that.
Oh, it was the okay. Wait, Reacher. I know why the whole Reacher thing came up, because I was just telling you that during our breakup, I was still rooting for you, Jeff.
Oh yeah. That's right. So yeah, Mike and I had our breakup. So the reason we're here today, speaking of giant guys, so that was a horrible segue, but I will wrench that in there. Mike and I bonded many a morning over protein shakes and gym's talk and all that. And yesterday I did a thing where obviously you'll appreciate this, because Mike is one of the few people, like, to live with somebody, you truly get to know them, no matter how much you try to hide behind a facade. So Mike and probably Scott, the Punisher buddy of mine that did the Punisher with me, we still make movies together. You two probably know me probably the most. And so obviously everything I'm talking about is like, it's about me. Or like it's like some people talk and they're like, oh, this isn't, they try to be vague. This is 100% because, from my experiences and my insecurities. But I am in this, I was arguing or thinking about how, and then to Mike's credit, we were talking about this. I said, I was like, what's the difference between body dysmorphia and just an extreme high standard? And Mike, like I said on the video the other day, or 2 days ago on the podcast, he said, it's relative because you've done this extreme thing. And that's where Mike and I are like, fuck, we need to actually follow up on this, because we're both big dudes. We love the gym. And then until this morning or the other day, you had said we both came at it for two different reasons. Like I was tall and skinny and fucking hated that. And it was in the time of when you're 15, 16, 14-ish and just super insecure. And then so to be surrounded by all the badass athletes of the school and the popular kids, I was like, oh, I got to start lifting weights. That's what Schwarzenegger and Stallone do, And so I got into it. And obviously at 14, 15, 16 and tall and skinny, I wasn't going to pack on any size. Like that, I don't have the body style to accomplish anything for like 30 years, but that's why I did it. And then Mike, actually, fuck it. Tell me about you. I completely skipped the introduction of who you were. We just went for it, man.
No.
Like, I mean, who are you? Like,
who are you?
Like, since you don't like give a shit in a good way, don't it doesn't have to be douchey. Like, well, my website is there. Like, what is your current day bio?
I'm not going to say that I'm a accomplished international romance star with over 800 novel covers. I'm not going to say that. All right.
But people would say that.
See, that's the hardest thing for me, Jeff, is that people talk about being humble and all this stuff. It's like anybody that actually knows me, if someone's watching that knows me, knows that the person that is talking to you right now is the same person that would talk to them there, that is the same person on a movie set until they say action. I mean, it's just, I don't, that was the hardest part of LA for me, is that so many people had these, like you said, facades.
Yeah.
And that's just not my jam. It's like, you see what you get. And it's funny, out of all the things you said, I could talk about anything, but it's like, talk about yourself. It's like, genuinely, it's like, I'm going to try to make it as simple as I can. And I was listening to your podcast yesterday. I know he's going to bring up former fat kid. That's true. And so when I
Yeah.
hear you talk about like, I'm sick of being skinny, I wanted to be good. You want to know what my deal
It was
was?
a good
I
problem
just
to have.
wanted it's a
Yeah.
good problem to have. I just
Yeah.
wanted to kiss a girl. That
Yeah.
would have been nice. And it's like, I'm 18 years old, haven't kissed a girl yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm literally scared of girls. All my buddies are coming. I'm trying to keep this family friendly, at least on my end. But it's
Oh,
like the things
I'm
that
dropping
they would,
F-bombs. Yeah.
it's your show. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'm saying like
But
the standard's established at this point, but it's up to you.
yeah. Yeah, that's well. The point of it is that they would tell me all their conquests, and I'm just sitting there. And at 15 years old, that's a very awkward age. And add your body is starting to produce testosterone into the
Yeah.
mix, and it's like, and that's one of the reasons. What a good segue to who I am. I was a high school teacher for 9 years before I moved out to LA,
Mhm.
and I taught sophomores, 14, 15-year-olds, and that's one of the
Jesus,
reasons I
God
wanted
help
to do
you.
it. Well, because like what you just said, man, you talk about a screwed up time in your life. You're not a little kid anymore. You're not an adult yet. You don't know what's going on. And I'm like, if I'm doing this, seniors already checked out. Juniors think they're cool. Freshmen are babies. But for me, the sweet spot was sophomores because it was
Yeah.
like they were just in that transition phase. And I felt that I could do something to help them because that was how I felt for a lot of my life being the fat kid.
Nice.
So anyway, I played sports just like you did as well. And I always wanted to, I love basketball and baseball. And basketball, I played because I was I was the tallest kid
Tall.
always.
Yeah.
I would just stand, I couldn't jump, but I would just literally just stand playing sports, fat kid. I was, taller than everybody. So I could just stand there. I wouldn't have to jump much, but I wanted to be good. And I'll never forget this wrestling coach came up and was like, "You should wrestle. You're a big kid." And I'm like, I don't want to wrestle. I love basketball. And he's like, "You're too fat. At least you'll be a big kid in
damn,
wrestling."
dude.
And I'm like, and he's like, "You'll never, this happened in 8th grade." And he was like, "You're never going to be a basketball player. Just start wrestling." And I was like, and I think I'm a lot like you, Jeff, where it's like, "Oh, you don't think I can do it? Watch this."
Yeah. Well,
And,
dudes, it's like, it's instantly the subtext is you're daring me, right? And like, no, I didn't say that at all.
right. I actually, this may be, I don't know, this might get me canceled, but a few weeks ago, I was over at the outdoor plaza here in Huntsville, and this guy was outside with a stand, and he's out there, and it was the anti-bullying, stop bullying, stop bullying. And
Ooh.
again, bullying to where people are getting picked on or
Yeah.
they want to commit suicide or something. That is absolutely horrible.
Yes.
But I walked by and he said, "Do you want to donate?" I said, "My man, do you want me to be real honest with you here?" And he's like,
I know
"Yeah." I
what you're
said,
going to say.
I don't think a little bit of bullying is all that bad because I was
Yeah.
picked on, fat Foster, look at the tits on this kid, all that stuff. And to me, it just made me be like, okay, all right, all right, all right.
Yeah.
Again, it could have went both ways, but for me, it
100%.
was like, watch
Yeah.
this, And
Yeah.
I'm like, and that was just it. So my senior point is that moving forward, so he said I'd never be able to do it. I want to make in the 9th grade team. He's like, anybody can make the freshman team. Made the JV team. Anybody can make the JV team. Well, I didn't see him again until my senior year. And by this point, when I was a sophomore, I was 6'5", 6'6", and I weighed about 297.
Damn,
like,
dude.
all fat.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like all. So I've actually, like I said, I don't feel comfortable saying I'm an expert in anything, but I do have a scar from pelvic bone to remove all the skin. I had abdominoplasty. So when it comes to body dysmorphia, I feel that I'm maybe not an expert, but definitely a reliable guest on your show.
You're
Jeff.
definitely not a person. You're not like, that's the thing. And you're not some like 18-year-old fit chick on Instagram giving out fitness advice. It's like, well, it's easy to be fit when you're 18, to actually have gone through the gamut and be an age or have lived a life. Yeah, like so, and it's not. I know it's not like some physique, personal mental dick measuring contest, but yeah, the tall skinny kid. That's just a passive existence. Like it just happens to be, Whereas I don't know. I think it's harder to go backwards, as in to lose weight, because like, especially if it's obesity, it's not like muscle weight. Like so, there's a mental aspect. There's a whole different fallout that nobody can understand. Like the surgery fallout. So.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's an interesting. And Mike has, I'm slightly kissing your ass, but I genuinely mean it. You have a better headspace about it. You're a little bit healthier about it, and we have this weird coming at it from the same way of like, I will never not say I wasn't influenced by movies in sometimes a good way, sometimes a bad way, because that gave me my standard was Stallone and Schwarzenegger, and I didn't know any better that it took them. As we said offline, a lot of chicken, broccoli, and rice to get that way.
Right. And even worse for me, it wasn't Stallone or Schwarzenegger. I mean, I liked them both, of course, but when I first saw in 1985, I'll never forget this. I was in 5th grade and I saw Rocky IV. I saw
Drago?
Dolph Lundgren and I was like,
same.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember seeing Dog. I was like, oh, a tall guy. Yeah.
Right?
And
Right?
in that movie, they show him injecting the chicken broccoli and rice.
Chicken breakfast. Right. And it's funny you said that, like the movie. Well, I'll get back to the tall thing because I would
Yeah.
always root for, like, back when I was reading bodybuilding mags, I'd root for the tall guy. So
Yeah.
remind me about Roland Kickinger. But just to
Okay.
move this forward so your people know who I am.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, my senior
How do you
year,
spend your days? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I knew no. I knew nothing about nutrition. I literally would get up as a senior in high school. I wanted to play basketball. By this time, my sophomore or my junior, I lost more weight. I was probably about 250, and I would just get up and eat a donut, and then I wouldn't eat the rest of the day. I'd go to basketball practice.
Yeah.
I'd come home. I'd run a couple miles. So I got down to 204. And for me, by my senior year, I was, just because I was tall and I could get that high off the ground, I could maybe touch the rim. When I got down to 204, my legs were, I know my calves were shredded. I was strong from carrying all that weight.
Yeah.
I was going up above the rim like this, just hammering dunks. I was like, this is pretty cool. So fast forward, I go to college, and my habits are hard to break. And it was one of those deals. I go to a college and it's like all you can eat. You go to the college where it's, you go to the student lunchroom and it's like they had hamburgers and fries. And it's like, and again, this is before I knew anything about nutrition. So, I was doing this, and my freshman year, we were, I played both basketball and baseball. D3 school, that 99 cents will get you a cup of coffee. It wasn't like I was that good. All right. But point is that, I'm doing this, and the coach would, like, go to the weight room, and I'm like, I knew nothing. And I saw this dude, that I was just like, I looked at his body, and he wound up, this is actually one of the things that, man, we got so much to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
It really upset me when it came to you. Do you remember I was trying to get you that sponsorship with that supplement company right about 2016?
Your old one?
Yeah. I was trying to hook all that up, and this guy's like, I'm looking for, like, we're trying to get in good with soldiers and, and the whole, like, wounded warrior thing and all this. And I'm like, it's like literally, I forgot what movie it is, but it's like God bow wrapped a Jeff Bosley and set him in front of me.
I got that guy in my basement.
That's literally what I said. I'm like, he is built like this. He's hashtag no homo. He's very handsome. I'm going on and on with all this stuff. And then the dude just totally fumbled the ball. So he and I had a little falling out with that as well. But I saw this dude's physique, and I'm like, that's crazy. So he just was like, here, and he gave me an Iron Man magazine. It had, like, Lee Labrada, who's 5'3" on the cover. And I memorized, and I started learning. And back then, as you remember, everything was low fat, clean carbs, and anyway, so I started doing that. And that's when I really started, working out, and, finished college with, lifting weights. I mean, I never was shredded, but I was getting in better shape, and then came home to be a teacher. And it's like you said earlier, with the whole thing with, like, take a guy with OCD and a lot of time on his hands, something can get accomplished.
Yeah.
I go back home to my hometown, and I'm not trying to kick anybody in the balls here because they're all very good people, but it's like the mentality when you're from the upper Midwest, the Rust Belt region. I'm just south of Detroit, north of Toledo. I mean, everybody that I knew was like, graduate from high school. It's like, hey, bro, I got a job down to the Ford's plant, making about 120 a year with overtime, got a place up north, got the kid. They all get married right out of high school, pump out a couple of kids. By the time I'm getting home from college, every chick is divorced and has a couple of kids. And I'm just like, so I'm like, what am I going to do? So, like, after school every day, where most teachers go home and play with their kids or join a PTA or whatever, I was going straight to the gym and hitting it. So I got pretty
So this is
jacked.
postgraduate. This is post-college for you.
Post-college. Now
Wow.
I'm a teacher.
Okay. Gotcha.
So this is like 98 to 2004-ish when I was just going hard.
So you, for timeline reference, so for you, you were just basically in obese athlete mode up until, like, college. Like, you didn't actively.
Senior year.
Okay. Senior year.
And
so
then
you didn't actively do anything to mitigate it. And then you didn't actually start doing your gym life until after college.
I didn't. Okay. So,
like, the Mike's gym life, like, I'm sure coaches made you work out, et cetera, but, like, Mike doing it because he wanted to.
Not really. Like
no
I
shit.
said,
See, I didn't know that.
High school weights were not the thing. It was all about running. It was just, I mean, I'm dating myself. I am 51. So that was a little bit before, like, now every high school weight trains and all that.
Yeah.
But for me, again, dating myself, only the football team got to work out with weights. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I do remember one time, I believe it was either my junior or senior year, I went in, the baseball coach, he had the pitchers and catchers lift, and I went in and tried to start working out. He's like, get out there and work on your skills. You don't need to do this. All right. So, so I just would I would run. That's what I would do. So I went from being fat to skinny. And I got to kiss a chick, and I dated the captain of the cheerleaders. So it all worked out. You know, I was captain of the
And based on math, that proved your results. If A plus B equals C, getting tall and skinny
one donut a day, run a couple miles, practice. So it's funny too, because then I did see that wrestling coach. And I mean, again, this is, I always want to use that quote from Waiting. It's so horrible. It's like,
Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah. Do you remember at the very end of it when it was like, and I was all league and I was all this and all that. Well, I mean, like all conference where I was at was Monroe County. It wasn't Wayne County. And remember, he's like, you're the coolest guy at Shenanigans. He's like, that's like being the smartest kid with Down syndrome. It's so bad.
It's relative to the lake and pond of which you are residing in.
Right. So I was a really big guppy in a really, really small little pond. But point is, I was all league, I was all county, all that stuff. And I did see that wrestling coach, and I wasn't a jerk about it, but I did kind of look at him and go, how's the team going this year, coach?
Good for you, dude. So, those are the little victories. See, I didn't actually know that about you is I thought, and it's weird. And I always just assumed, well, it's not normal, and I'm not ripping on you, but from my experience, this is ignorant outside looking in, to be 6.5 feet tall and pack on weight to the level of obesity is, correct me if I'm wrong, hard and rare. Like that's not easy. Typically, like the shorter, I haven't seen like you had to, forgive me, like you had to put some calories in to do that at that age.
Here's the deal. Try to imagine now on my mother's side, they would eat healthier. Like we would have like, you couldn't put sugar in your cereal type thing.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
But my dad's side, let's talk nutrition for a minute. Try to imagine you've got an Italian grandmother. All right.
Okay.
So there's your carbs, and your grandfather is a butcher. So is it good to use high carbs and high fat together? I'm curious.
Apparently not.
Yeah, so it's like
no
you got
shit.
ribeye over here and grandma's pasta and the desserts and the whole. And I mean, and I had no self-control because it's like for me, it was like food. I guess I ate my feelings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I have no qualms in like I'm kind of there now, so I 100% see like the dopamine rush, the serotonin rush, the high you get from consuming food. Yeah. Well, and that's what I was asking is like when I was that age, in the tall and skinny insecure phase, I was boohoo, poor me problems, but I was quote unquote blessed with the metabolism of the assumed metabolism of kid in 14 through 17 has. Mm-hmm. I lived off Whoppers. I remember coming into chemistry class frequently with 2-liter Mountain Dews and dozen donuts, and I would just eat that through class, and I could not pack on weight. Boohoo, poor me.
Yeah. Damn you, Jeff Bosley.
Yeah.
Damn you.
But my point is for those who don't know nutrition, and it still fascinates me in the day of the internet that people still can't just Google this shit, to exceed your caloric neutrality, or whatever. And I'm not mocking you, but that had to put some work in. Like at that age,
but again, this is before nutrition was around.
That's my point. Yeah, I'm not knocking your nutrition knowledge, but as far as just the actual act, so like that shows the extremes of which we came from, as far as that. And so and
if I may, to top that off also, so again, full disclosure here, because you said you wanted to keep it live and real. I had my junior in college, I had gynecomastia surgery, not from jamming gear, but it's obvious that I had high levels of estrogen where you were burning up body fat like crazy, sucking on Mountain Dew, 2 liters, and all that. Me, I'm holding on to every calorie. It's like, if I look at a pizza, I'm gaining weight. So I actually had the glandular tissue that needed to be removed. No steroids. And that was just, that's just a sure sign that I was high estrogen. So high estrogen levels and that kind of a diet is just and you're a
good example of what, and I'm going to butcher it. Betty says this all the time. You might know it too. Like, God, what is it? Something like genetics is the bullet, lifestyle is the gun that shoots it, or something like that. So you're the dare I say extreme version of, especially that age, that genetics plus that life, like your genetics were so not typical for a hyper metabolizing teenage prepubescent boy that could just inject Whoppers into his veins and not gain a pound. And then you had a lifestyle that just, in a bad way, is like, was used for evil, not good. It was like, so it was the perfect mix of that. And so, so like, I remember, and it's funny because you said only the football players could work out. The only reason I got to work out at the high school, again, boohoo, poor me problems, was my uncle was the football coach, but I could work out after they left. And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I just remember benching a lot, you know? And then I went to 100% the same thing. It was Iron Man was back in the 90s. Was Muscle Media 2000 out yet, or was that around 2000?
No, we had Muscle and Fitness, we had Iron Man, Flex Magazine, and Muscular Development.
So the very cliche bodybuilding ones for sure.
The top four, yep. And then Muscle Media 2000, I remember came in right about the time, I'd say 1995-ish.
Yeah, because it was I graduated in 96, and when I went to college, that's when I started like Bill Phillips, EAS, Muscle Media, like he was the marketing god for insecure dudes.
Dude, tell me anybody that had an EAS jacket on, you're like, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, would you like to hear a crazy Muscle Media 2000 story?
Sure.
So do you remember how they had all those different articles? They had like, remember Dan Duchesne, the guy that invented Ultimate Orange?
The underground steroid guy.
That's right. That's which
wasn't it called the Underground Steroid Bible or Handbook?
Body Opus.
Body Opus I have downstairs, but didn't he also from prison write like essentially a pamphlet? I have it in a file cabinet outside. It's literally was a pamphlet with like staples and folded in half that you could buy off of the I don't even know how I got it.
Yep. No, I had Body Opus with, this is how, like you, I remember the stupidest. The front cover was a European bodybuilder named Hans Hopstocken. He was all shredded, and it's like it looked like it was ripped in half. And I had Dan Duchesne's autograph that I got at the 1997 Arnold Classic, and some douchebag stole it from me, man.
Oh shit. That's so, oh my God. So this is nostalgia time. So my high school workout buddy, so this is around junior and senior year, another tall guy, his name's Sam. I don't want to say his name, but we actually reconnected just because of the internet. And he was in the same space. We didn't know what the fuck we were doing, but we just knew we had to have stringer tank tops and work out heavy. And there was a phase, you know, we would just open every magazine and we would do the workout laid out there. Like, oh, this is what, who was the, not Ronnie. Who was the giant? Paul Dillette. So
Freakenstein.
So we're like, oh, tall guys. We did his workout, and then somebody came out with a point of flexion workout that had like you do a certain part of your workouts where stretching and the stretching component, the maximal contraction and the mid range. Like we do all these template workouts, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And there was a point in college where Bill Phillips, when he wrote his Body for Life, remember when he kind of marketed more towards like everyone versus bodybuilders. So like when he first had EAS, it was bodybuilding and very, very aggro. And then Eat Body for Life, I literally remember it was less aggressive colors. It was blue, reds and whites, and wasn't counting calories. He had this great, you know, and Sam has that fucking book of mine. He never gave it back.
It's time for him to send it to you, man. That's a classic. But no, because you remember there was the switch. So the reason I brought up Duchesne is he had all these different writers that would always talk about steroids and body chemistry and all this stuff. And one of them was Michael Moody. And Michael Moody read a column called, do you remember Metabolics?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God,
Metabolics.
dude.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember what I did yesterday, and I'm remembering this.
But you remember Michael Moody's Metabolics articles? But he would always talk about tests and DECA and different things for AIDS patients. A lot of his research was done around AIDS patients. He also was really big in DMSO. Remember when DMSO was a big thing? Dimethyl sulfide. Anyway, it's where instead of using a hypodermic needle, they use it for racehorses and rub the drugs on through the dermis. But anyway, I digress. So the point of it is moving forward from 2004, I left teaching in 2006 to move out to LA to become an actor, and we can get into all that on a different podcast.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a to be continued show.
Oh, for sure.
There's no way.
There's no way we're getting all this done by the time I got to pick up my daughter. But anyway, so point being is that scene from 2006, I moved out there working for a sports nutrition company, Biotech, and then time's going on, and my career wasn't going anywhere in acting because I met a girl and was everything that I said I wasn't going to do, I was doing, but I was doing demos all the time. So do you remember how many samples I had at the house back when I first, oh
my God. Yes.
I had the amount of supplements at my house, like Tony Montana had cocaine, right? So it's just like, I had stuff everywhere. Right. So anyway, I digress. The point of it is that because I am a flaming capitalist, I was, I was working a lot down in West Hollywood. I was bartending at a gay bar, Hamburger Mary's. And one of my accounts that I would work with all the time was this place called the Power Zone. It was huge. They had, and when you think of West Hollywood, and I know you know this, that's like whenever you pick up one of those like Us magazines or US Weekly or Star, it's always like, Ashton Kutcher's sipping on a soy latte, Fresh Corn Grill in West Hollywood. It's always West Hollywood.
Yes.
So anyway, but that's also the gay capital of the world.
And I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, dude,
with
everybody there's shredded. Everyone's got abs. It's crazy. There's no demographic on earth. I don't care what Miami says. I don't care what New York says.
Yeah.
I don't care what anywhere in Europe says. West Hollywood, everyone looks like they're photoshopped.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So-
remember I felt like you had to have an audition just to get into that zip code. Like it was
Right?
just, I was just like,
Crazy.
good God, my insecurity went through the roof.
Well, imagine fat kid Mikey over here. I'm like,
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
around like, man. So what I did is I teamed up with a couple of guys. It was this company called N101. They had a place in Hollywood. They wanted to open one
God,
in
I
West
forgot about
Hollywood.
that.
So I invested myself and my two other business partners, and I opened a health nutrition store right in the middle of Santa Monica Boulevard, right in the middle of West Hollywood. So we would get a lot of people that would come in all the time, and I would
Shittiest
see, you know,
parking I've ever seen, like some of the shittiest parking on the planet at that location.
there's better parking in
LA
New
is
York.
bad,
It was
but that was
horrible.
that was a very bad spot.
Yeah, you remember. It was, you know, and man, the stories I could tell you about that place. But anyway, going back to the, since you brought up EAS, man, Jeff, we got to do this again. I got so many stories that are
We didn't get
pertinent
to the
this
topic.
conversation. So
All right,
Michael,
well, what we'll
sitting
do
in
is
the store.
I'll wrangle it. Yeah, finish that. Sorry. I'll write this
Okay.
down.
Right, you do your notes, Jeff.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah. So I'm in there working out, and this guy walks in. I'm like, wait a minute, you're Michael Mooney. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, I read all your articles and blah, blah, blah.
Holy shit.
And we're talking. And as you know, well, you know, but your audience doesn't know, I blew my Achilles tendon back in 2005 doing ballistic sprints. I rejacked myself up to about 280
Yeah.
pounds of
Big dudes shouldn't be
muscle.
doing sprinting.
Nope. And my Achilles just the end. So anyway, I was talking, I'm like, yeah. And I said, I've read a lot of your articles on the healing properties of DMSO, and we're going on and on talking and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, he's like telling me how it's going to help, you know, repair scar tissue. And it was a great conversation. And he's like, well, here's my card, give me a call, look me up sometime. I'm like, all right, cool. Clue one, we're in West Hollywood, Jeff. I look it up. Dude, did you know? Tell me you saw the movie Ted. For those that
Yes.
watched the movie Ted. Okay. Did you know that Michael Moody's in like some kind of a gay beat up club?
Legit
was like,
serious?
Dude, I go to his website and it's like Michael Mooney and another dude pounding on each other like with gloves, and then
Like
they like hug and kiss
Underground
and-
gay fight club?
They were in an underground gay fight club, dude. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, everyone I see in the article.
It sounds like a horrible Mad Lib. Like pick a noun and an adjective.
I couldn't believe it. Like one of my closest friends, and I'm not name dropping, I'm just telling you facts, that
Yeah.
for the longest time going to trade shows, I became really, really good friends with Patrick Arnold. He's the guy that invented the Clear. If you know anything about the Barry Bonds, Marion Jones,
Yep.
like all the steroid guys,
Yeah.
he's the one that invented the drug that he sold to Victor Conti, who was the trainer at Balco that gave them all the drugs. So because he's the guy that made it, he had to do like not federal pound me in the ass prison, but he had to go away for a hot minute,
Yeah.
for like 6-7 months. And so,
Oh my God.
before I knew him, I'm back in Monroe, Michigan as a teacher reading muscle mags. Everybody in there is a star to guys like you and I. And I'm like, Patrick Arnold, and I'm thinking it's
Yeah.
some chemist with a white coat on doing all this stuff. Dude, we go to the Arnold Classic. He's outside of the big lake. He's like, at the time, I'm probably 35. He's like 40. He's outside with like a big sausage thing, drinking a beer, and all this. And I'm like, whoa, and
Yeah.
it's like, it's not what you expect, right? So that's where I met Michael Mooney, and I'm thinking he's going to be some, he writes metabolics. He's going to be this, the other thing. And he's just a nice guy that's an underground gay beat up club. Dude, unbelievable. Don't meet your heroes, Jeff.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother podcast too.
Mhm.
So I will try to wrangle it for the last 30. So
Yeah,
we
good
started
luck with
working
that.
out. We both started working out. We ended up meeting, and now, and to Mike's credit, here's the short version. Is working out for me was fun. It was like my thing. It was my hobby. But then when I moved, and in the military and firefighting, like, not bodybuilding would have been useless, but exercise of some form was always a component of my life, fortunately. But traditional, like body, not necessarily getting on stage and flexing, but pretty much just shy of that, I would still call bodybuilding for just the sake of simplicity.
Mhm.
And when I got to LA, I was like, I really leaned the hell into that. And then to Mike's credit, I was standing at the counter at his house, and he goes, "Did little Jeff want to grow up and be a bodybuilder? Or did little Jeff want to grow up and be an actor?" And I was like, ugh. But
because you were going hard in the paint, man. I mean, and there's no doubt. Too.
Oh, billion percent.
I think you posted it the other day. I mean, dude, you absolutely could have stood on stage with any of those physique guys.
A
You
billion
looked
percent. Yeah.
fantastic.
And that's the thing. And for me, and then this is a whole nother Hollywood side note podcast, but it was the whole, well, like Mike and I talked about, we know what we're going to get cast as. So, and then people don't know, like, yeah, Chris Hemsworth looks great when he's Thor, but in between he looks like a skinny surfer.
That's exactly what he is, dude.
But unless you're Chris Hemsworth, they're like, hey, Chris, you're going to be Thor in the next movie. You have a year. And he's like, all right. If you're no name Jeff and Mike, if you don't show up ready to rock, they're going to pick the guy that's ready to rock, Tuesday. So my mentality was like, what's the stupid fucking bro phrase? You don't got to get ready if you are ready. So I was just like, I'm just going to be ready all the time. And
failure to prepare is preparing to fail.
Exactly. So I was like, well, and it's funny because I bitch about this sometimes. I booked a fuck ton of roles when I was jacked out of my mind, and they were dumb roles like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I was in a tracksuit. You didn't even see my muscles. It just made no sense. And so but yeah, true. To Mike's credit, he kind of redirected me just before our breakup, and it kind of changed my perspective because I do enjoy it. And I'm getting to the topic this whole podcast was supposed to be on, but I do enjoy it because it has been my foundation. And, like I said in the show the other 2 days ago or whatever, it has gone from healthy to therapeutic. It has kind of run a roller coaster, but it's been a foundation since, I hate when people say literally, but in this case, literally 1993 is when I first started weight training. My dad bought me a generic Bowflex, and before junior high, so I've been working out in the morning since 93. I would work out in my bedroom with this generic Bowflex. That was a death trap. Like Bowflex of all those things were just terrifying. The little rubber band thing. But yeah, so I've been doing it since then, and so it was good, but it was started for unhealthy mental reasons, but then it became unhealthy later, yada, 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 which brings us to today. of now.
I got to tell you, though, when you're talking about that, it's crazy how that works. And I wanted to address what you were saying the other day about like when I tried to reel you in a little bit, like, dude, when you have veins in your abs, when you got as lean as you did, my buddy that I was talking about that when he and I had that little falling out about, hiring you for the supplement company.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he did fitness shows like the dude was, we're talking skinless. Yeah. And it's like when you achieve that level of leanness, even being able to grab your stomach and pull a little bit of skin out is like, oh, I'm fat again. So, I mean, and that's
the thing is it sets a standard that we only knew from magazines. So that seemed, that was removed enough to be like, kind of, it was like, like you said, it was good that you did it because it gave you kind of a reason, a motivation, and a drive. But then the minute you cross that threshold into I've done it, and that was what I said the other day, is like and I still don't know the fucking answer. There's a sweet spot because there are inherently, I think the common ground in all of this is the athletic mind. Whether you play a sport or not, there's an athletic mind because inherently athletes, by design, the thing you're doing is destructive to be better at something. That template applies to, I argue, to race car driving, to rodeo, to bodybuilding. All of it takes some level of abuse, and so.
Well, if I may, really
please,
quick,
hit me.
It's actually destructive to do what we're trying to do. The human body does not want to be lean and muscular. With that,
oh yeah, that's for sure. That's a definite. We
are literally fighting.
Yes.
Eons of I don't want to say evolution, but eons of human beings trying to survive on this planet. You don't want stored body fat is what's going to keep us alive when there's
the
nuts
the Spartans did not look
mammoths.
The Spartans did not look like Gerard Butler.
no, they did not. No, they did not.
But to your point,
we're doing something unhealthy. I mean,
and that's the thing is
unhealthy. Our aesthetics of the level that you and I have both achieved for certain levels is not something you can maintain year round.
And it's so weird, and I don't. And this will be the old man complaining thing, but it's 100% marketing. Like we were fed it, whether it was back in whatever 1800s, women were fed that you had to wear a corset and have rosy red cheeks to pinch them, and guys had to have white wigs. Whatever was fed at some point in, like what it was the strong man in the early like 1900s, for whatever reason. And then I'm sure you've seen the meme that says something like you work out because of an Instagram model. Here's why I work out, and has a picture of Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I think Dolph Lundgren. It was like the workout starter pack from the 80s or something. And because that became the standard of which we hold it to. And then the reason we had this show today is it's like, oh shit, I've done it. And you can't erase that from your brain. And it's obviously, like to Mike's point, whether people will get the codes here, whether you're doing with chicken, broccoli, and rice or other means, it's your body doesn't like to be that way. It looks, and I don't know why. And typically women in a straight world, women don't like that look. Like the giant O'Hearns. Like, I don't think I was that big. Well, I know I wasn't that big, but like you said, to have veins in your armpits, in your delts, in your abs.
I have a question though, and I'm throwing this out
No,
there.
yeah.
I don't know if I have the answer to it. I'm not a psychologist. My name is not Jordan Peterson, right? But my question to you is this: is it women don't like? And now I get the fact that they don't like your Dorian Yateses, or I'm going
Oh,
old
yeah,
school,
yeah.
Ronnie Coleman's. I get where that, but
Yeah,
that's just too
the
much.
traditional assumptions. When you think of a bodybuilder, they don't like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Let's take a look at, let's tone it. Well, even the classics got jacked up. Like Bumstead's pretty huge now, but
Yeah.
take Bumstead a little deswollen. Is it that women don't like to look at that, or women don't like knowing what it takes to look like that? And they're like, oh, he's going, like, I'm just wondering automatically,
Yeah.
is it like he's not going to be spending time with me because he's going to be at the gym and cooking chicken breasts? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I
Yeah.
like how that looks, but I don't like the person that comes with it.
I don't,
You know what
well,
I'm
I think it'd take a woman that would be, and in this case, it could go both ways, but in this case, for you and I, we're going to talk about women. I would say it takes a woman to know the thing, like, because Betty is extremely smart. And I've even told her some very huge revelations of what it took to be X, Y, and Z. And even she was shocked. She's like, you know, she knows obviously, because she still sees me weigh my food, you know, the whole bull crap, but I'm believe it or not, I'm a little more slack on it, or I'm a little bit more functional within life. But she knows, but to truly know, you know, whatever supplement, air quote, and or not air quote, you're taking, like the level, you know, because we'll watch various shows, movies, or whatever. I'm like, oh, this dude right here, classic sign of this. And, you know, she's like, what? I'm like, oh God, yeah. I was like, no, these things are not easy things. And I go, so I don't think, not in a dismissive way to like Betty or the, you know, this fake woman, hypothetical woman we're talking about. I don't think they're idiots, but I just don't think they know. Because my theory comes from, I dated this girl in Colorado, and she had depth to it, but I think at the end of the day, we're all still mammalian. We're animals. We're attracted to the book cover first. You know, we're not on some weird game show where you put a hood on and you meet them like you're blind. Like, you're attracted to the book cover first, and then God willing, they're good people in at depth. She was a good person.
Good.
Yeah. She was a good person. She was hot. She found me hot, and she made a comment, and, you know, whatever, that I was like, I knew she appreciated whatever I was doing aesthetically. But then when we started dating, she saw I didn't stay out late. I didn't go to the bar drinking and having nachos at night. And I've used this story countless times. She's like, it caused like a huge fallout. And I was like, how the fuck do you think I got the body that you liked? The thing you liked that attracted you to me, this is what it takes. Like,
abs are not built by nachos.
Exactly. So so I don't think, I think, definitely typically women that in our world, you and I, is like the kind of women you and I are attracted to or find to be, we care about. Probably don't like the Bumsteads, the Schwarzeneggers, the Dillettes, the big growth hormone stomachs. I do think they might be like, ooh, when they see like the Hemsworths, you know,
Mark Wahlberg in his Calvin Klein days.
Yeah. Like, they were, you know, they might have been a little sauce. They might not have been, but they caught girls' eyes for sure.
Yep.
I don't think there's a running meme that says something like the meme where there's like a guy and a girl laying in bed back to back, and she's like, I bet he's thinking of other women, and he's like, how does that guy get such big calves? You know, like, typically dudes are thinking of other dudes at the gym. They're like, and, you know, like, yeah. I mean, I knew some fitness people that were like, that found me hot. They were a little less crass in their censorship. I was like, okay, thank you for assessing and telling me what you think of me. That's uncomfortable. But I don't think people like your better half and my better half, they appreciate, I think they appreciate the balance. I mean, Betty is definitely, and I'm not kissing her ass, she's definitely better than me. Like, she appreciates balance. If for some reason I could get what I want and I'm happier X, and she's not gonna be like, ooh, veins, but it's not her thing. You know, I don't think she'd be repulsed and leave me, but that's a whole side story. So
no, it's spot on. That's Karina's the same way. She's like, because I mean, I'm going to keep it real, Jeff. Yeah. I'm going to be real with you. I'm doughy right now. I moved to Alabama. I discovered Bojangles, but don't worry, I'm coming back.
That's what brings us to this.
You're the comeback.
This is the thing, is that that's the cycle. And it's you and I have this weird parallel, but it's like a parallel. It's almost like, you know, when you're behind a plane and you see the jet engine, the jet wash kind of turbine, that's technically parallel, but not. So like, we're parallel, but experiencing them on different extremes. So like, at your phase and I'm at my phase. I'm not by no means a ripped god like the picture I posted the other day, but I'm obsessed with it to the point of which brought up my podcast the other day. Is that a good thing to strive for because it's fun for self-competition? It is high standard, as in I even compared it to somebody like likes waxing their truck or their car. Is there anything wrong with taking pride in that? And obviously if it's at the detriment of your children and your wife, obviously that answer is pretty obvious. It's pretty easy. And then for you, like, for the lack of shitty metaphors, you choose not to polish your truck as much as you used to, and you're fucking happy.
Well, here's the thing. Ooh, man, there's a lot of deep stuff.
I know.
Going on.
That's the thing.
So am I happy? Absolutely. I've never been this happy in my life, but at the same time, it's like I had to go to it's like a local Huntsville Dancing with the Stars gala thing last night. Insert waiting reference.
Yes.
For local celebrities.
That's awesome.
But I'm sorry, once again, I did it. But yeah, so I went and got a suit yesterday, and a lot of the clothes that I was wearing a couple years ago aren't fitting as well. So my thing with that is, and I know you probably know what I'm talking about, is it's like, we're talking about body dysmorphia. We're talking about aesthetics. We're talking about a lot of different things here. But the bottom line is that I'm seeing through my clothes. I mean, this is keeping it, I guess, is dysmorphia for dummies as much as I can. You know what I mean? When your clothes start to not fit anymore, it's like, okay. And the thing of it is that goes with that in my mind is I'm, let me do another biblical reference here. I'm like Abraham and my wife is Sarah. I mean, I got into the game late, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm an old dad.
Good
and
reference.
I see the energy that my daughter has, and I've got to be able to keep up. So I don't look at it as, do I care what I look like? Am I going out there trying to impress the ladies at church or, down at the local Bojangles or wherever it might be, and do the whole, it's not like that. It's just that I know that extra body weight, I believe it's something like for every pound of body weight you put on, like fat, it's an extra 5 or 10 pounds extra pressure on the knees.
Yeah.
It's gravity. So that being said, I'm looking at this. If I'm going to chase my daughter around for the next 20, 30 years and actually walk her down the aisle one day, I'm probably going to be in my 80s.
Your metrics, the same outcome possibly, but your metrics to get to that outcome, you're not going to get shredded to take care of your daughter, but the pursuit of maybe being better for that it's like people that accidentally get in shape doing something. It's like a cool bonus. See, I argue CrossFit for some fucking reason, they look like bodybuilders. So it's like an accidental outcome. I'm not saying CrossFit and taking care of your daughter, but I would imagine the reason
they're training for an athletic, like they're training for an
so they
athletic
accidentally
goal.
it's like sprinters. They look like freaking bodybuilders and they run a lot. That makes no sense. I mean, there's a lot of variables, I'm sure, but
but look at this, Jeff. You brought up a great point, and I always love using this one. Look at the different ways that running can make you look. When I was going out running multiple, like I would just run and run and run. And I got skinny. But I would never do sprints. I mean, I'm super slow, like off the jump, but I've got long legs. So when I was going back to when I lost a bunch of weight in college too, when I was pitching my sophomore year, I just started running all the time. And I got down, and this isn't a bragging thing, but for me I was always the last kid. It's like, in football practice, go run around the bell tower over there, and I'm always the last one. I got down to running a 5:51 mile. And for me,
dude. No, I know that's fast.
I weigh 204 pounds and I have long legs. It's that simple.
But that's impressive, dude. Because I had to learn about running miles in all the Army bullshit, and my enemy is running. So 5 is no joke.
Yeah, it's seriously.
Holy shit.
Well, so I was moving, but the point of it is I look what that did, and I got really skinny. My arms were small. But then you take a look at sprinters who are also running, but they're doing those short bursts, and they just get jacked.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how the same exercise can give you different results if done just differently.
And it baffled me. So it's interesting because, and I think that's what, and again, as always, there's no right answer. I think we would both agree, and I think this is where I'll give Mike more credit than me, is, well, and again, we're coming from other angles, and I'm not saying one is on a pedestal with one topic and one is shitty when it's on another topic, but we're both looking for the same target, but we're getting there different ways. I'm obsessed just because of really a nebulous image. Like, it's truly based on aesthetics. I feel better when I'm lighter. I'll admit that, but other than that, I was a little bit more performant. I did better in firefighting when I was leaner, but being bodybuilder actually went during our breakup. I don't even know if I told you this, but like, It might have been some of the chicken, broccoli, and rice. It might have been the rate at which I grew so fast. But I was actually doing sprints at, ironically, the name of the place in LA is called Unbreakable Performance. And I was doing sprints there, and I fell and my arm just shattered. Like, and typically, here's rule number one when you fall is you don't put your hands out. Like, it's a thing. Karina will know this probably. It's called a fall on an outstretched hand, a foosh fracture, fall on outstretched hand. And I looked at my palms to make sure my ego was intact. There was not a single abrasion. So I did not fall like that because I know not to fall like that. All the abrasions were on my forearms. So I tuck and rolled. It shattered this forearm. Like, it to the point where I was wearing like a Henley, and I was like, I felt like I almost like you know, when you just jam your finger, it just feels dead and weird. That's how my wrist felt. And I went to pick up a protein shaker, and my arm went like weird. And then I slid my sleeve up, and it was like a Z. And I was like, oh, that's not good. Which proves giant weight, way too much muscle, and the rate at which it grew, connective tissue couldn't handle the impact. It was a
Achilles. I understand.
Exactly. It was a joke of a sprint. I wasn't in MMA. Like, I was literally running in a sprint for a warm up in a parking lot. Ate shit, shattered my arm. You know, and honestly, yeah. So athletic wise, that look doesn't matter. But as we get older, I'm not training to be a firefighter. I've always used the same thing, even though I'm not going to have kids. I've always used the same thing of like, that was actually one of my big metrics when I got out of the military. And I said it as a metaphor, and I didn't know if it was going to be literal or figurative. And I said, after I broke my back, I was like, I want to be able to play with my kids when I get older. I don't want to be decrepit. And ironically, I'm super decrepit, and so like, that is a metric for kid. Like, I want to be able to play with a dog, or, you know, for kids or whatever. Like, it is a huge metric. And then lo and behold, that's what brought us all to this show, is that your reasons change, you know, and that's where I keep saying we have this parallel turbine thing, is our reasons are the similar but different. I'm still in I know you, uncensored and behind your eyes or whatever, you're like, fuck, he still's trying to do that bodybuilder shit. You know, I'm not unaware of that, because I do enjoy it. And that's what made me bring up the podcast yesterday. I was like, I do enjoy that quote unquote sport. I do enjoy waxing my truck versus having it covered in dog shit. But that slippery slope of realistic goals, you know, and functional goals, like, does it, you know, and is it taking away from Betty or you know, or taking away from your daughter? You know, cool, I might get shredded and not have the gut, my clothes might fit, but how healthy am I mentally to get there? Or vice versa. If you get super, you know, some people are dumb, fat, and happy, but they're also super overweight and their heart's going to explode. You know, well, so,
you know, it's funny you'd say that. My buddy Ricky, you'll hear me talk about him from time to time. He's always like, you know, I'm getting a Ricky character here.
Yeah,
man,
that's everybody there.
I know, right? Well, not ever. Believe it or not, Huntsville has the highest percentage of PhDs in the United States. Well, it's all NASA and Space Force and rocket technology here. So there's like, you know, I loved it because you know how, you know, Karina's competitive like you are. Yeah. So I was like, when we're moving here, I'm like, you're going to be in a room full of rocket scientists. You're not the smartest person in the room anymore. I love it. But old Ricky,
that was a good night to sleep on the couch, Mike.
That's exactly what happened. So that's the dogs were great. They kept me company. But old Ricky over here is like, man, you are 51 years old, man. I'm telling you what, just enjoy life. Enjoy. And I'm like, okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But me enjoying life, putting on body fat like this means less time with my daughter in the future. And to me, just going out and drinking drinking some cold beer and, you know, eating whatever, you're going to have a bowl, you know, a crab bowl. It's like doing that or spending more time with my daughter. It's like, I'm not saying I got to sit around and eat chicken and broccoli and rice all the time. But I mean, maybe I should have some kale from time to time. I mean, it's like kale has been replaced by biscuits. Damn it, Alabama. I love this place, but the food here, no.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, if I could, I was just wanting to shift this into a different thing that you probably don't know anything about, that I was going to tell you, that was one of those kind of blew my mind when it happened. So as I was joking around earlier, if your audience doesn't know, I have been on a lot of romance covers and all that stuff. So that was, you know, other than acting, that was my.
Yeah, well, they don't cast gross fat people for those jobs.
I may or may not have some pictures with abs as well, Jeff.
It's I think but I'm saying is like, so you were in a literal employment where there was an aesthetic standard.
I mean, last time I checked,
like that's the thing is,
you know,
yeah, like that's the thing is bodybuilding Bodybuilding is a sport of which you choose to be in. Romance covers is a job in which you choose to be in. But there are some jobs, employment or otherwise, right, wrong, or different, where you are paid. Your food is put on your table to have a certain look. And I don't care who you talk to. Mike and I have joked about this with various roles in Hollywood. Derek for More Plates, More Dates, when he does all of his who's natural, who's not Hollywood bullshit. He's like, so you're telling me this guy who says he's clean was offered $20 million to do the dream role of a lifetime, and he said no? He goes, no one would say no. He goes, my mother wouldn't say no. So obviously extrapolate that down to a case-by-case basis. So my point was to pat you on the back for romance covers. Like, there is a little level of stress. Like a firefighter who does a calendar once a year. Okay, once a year you might got to get your shit together, but you get the call, you got to be ready to rock.
You got to be ready to have a shirt off. I might have had a couple of weeks notice, and that's it. So, I mean, it was, I had to stay pretty lean, which, remember the house that we lived in, my house, it was up in the middle of the mountains in Glendale. So for me, if it's like I knew something coming up, it's like, well, I'm going to start running the mountain again.
Yeah.
It's the fastest way to burn body fat. But so listen to this, Jeff. So this one blew my mind. So the cool thing about the romance company I work for, Period Images, I'm going to give them a plug. They're fantastic. They had by far the best wardrobe department I've ever seen. And I mean, it's like, and I think hopefully your audience knows when I say this, we're not bragging or anything. I'm not trying to name drop. I'm just saying the truth.
It's a reference point.
Yeah. So I've been in all the warehouse. I've been to Fox Studios, ABC, Paramount, the whole shebang. I've seen their wardrobe departments. Hers might have not been as large, but for the genre that we were filming whether it be, classical romance or whatever it was unbelievable.
So the quality, like at which it was like representing. No shit.
When I did the Thundermans' Strong Door, they had me done up like the evil Viking.
Yeah.
Phenomenal costume. When I would go to Period Images to shoot my, Viking shoots, because they always have like a sexy Viking with rescue and pillaging and all this. That costume was even better. Wow. So one of the ways they made money is they would go to these trade shows, much like our bodybuilding trade shows, going to the Olympia, going to the Arnold, Emerald City, whatever it is. Yeah. So what they would do is they would have a large suite up there, and the wardrobe department would have the women. So every night, romance readers and novel, and authors are every single night. It'd be like Wednesday to Saturday. They would have a different themed party, and they go all out.
Trade shows in any industry have a weird party lifestyle.
Right. This one was just the women would get dressed up, and tonight we're going to have murder mystery, and it's going to be the Victorian age, and everyone's dressed Victorian. So what they would do is that they would provide, and for a fee, of course. I mean, this was their job. They'd get these ladies to come in, and they'd get them dressed up in their Victorian or their, whatever time period it may be, to go to the party, and then they would take pictures. And if they wanted to choose, I'm just hanging out this is me just sitting there hanging out all day, like, okay, need me.
You were a prop for the pictures, basically?
I was a prop. So I'd stand there and do the whole thing, and I got my hair down and, the duck lips.
You're the good version of Mark Hamill charging for his autograph, basically. The good version.
Thank you. Which I've never charged for an autograph, by the way. If someone's going to watch, dude, I have a hard time with that. It's like, if you're going to be cool enough to watch me, I'm going to hook a brother up with an autograph. Yeah. I mean, I get where it's a money making thing, and I'm not knocking people to do it.
I know it's a side tangent. We literally already paid Luke Skywalker. He gets residuals that probably some people would kill for in a 10-year span. Like, we have paid you, sir.
Do you know how many of his action figures? Anyway, yeah, totally with you. So anyway, what they would do is a month before, they would call into Rosa. Rosa had the department. Rosa is about 4'11", and she was the lady that after she get me dressed would be in front of me with the electric blow dryer or the electric fan, the leaf fan, where my hair's blowing in the wind and the whole shebang. So anyway, Rosa would make the costumes for me. I mean, I'm talking, these would be tailor-made, custom. I mean, Jesus. And this is where, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here. I'm just saying that this is where I noticed body dysmorphia with people outside of you and I trying to be lean for a romance shoot or a movie role, or, being the coolest dude at Gold's Gym. They would, they would call in, and they'd have to give Rosa their sizes, and Rosa would literally have this tailored. Well, poor Rosa, the day of, or as we say in the industry, on the day, would get these people ready. All the romance authors and the fans would come in there, and none of their costumes fit. And I'm not talking about like a little alteration. Rosa would have to bust her kula running around trying to literally recreate these costumes, because when the ladies would call and give the sizes, they'd be like, And again, I'm so sorry. I'm not as like on it as you are about like I don't remember. Like I don't remember the name. Like, oh, that's a BMW Series 7 X2. I don't know the numbers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't know other than guys' sizes. I don't know women's sizes. But
Yeah.
let's just say that they're normally like what would be big, like at 12 or 10.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, let's say yeah. For the sake of your
double
audience, like,
digits higher.
let's just say a 10 is really, really large. They'd be like, oh, I'm gonna be a 7. And they'd come in as like a 13 or something because they say they're going to lose weight. And then they would show up and they would lie about their sizes. Like Rose was like, what's your size now? I'm a 6.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
because of that, they would come in and they would cause her so
The
much
fallout.
chaos
Yeah.
rather than her running over, putting on the outfit. And then we had always had hair and makeup there for them. Their hair's done, their makeup's done. I felt so bad for poor Rosa because these ladies who are just the romance industry authors and fans are by far my favorite industry and my favorite fan. So I'm by no means knocking them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just stating something that where they
I think
also,
from
like you and I have
outside looking
dysmorphia.
in, it's one of the most passionate, literally, no pun intended, one of the most passionate. I mean, look at just nerds and comic books. Now, I would argue from just ignorance that the romance stuff novels, people are more invested in those plots than reading a comic book.
Oh,
so take
right.
a Marvel nerd, times it by 100.
Right. It's almost like the industry I always compared it to is like, you remember how like soap operas have such a loyal following?
Yeah.
It would be soap operas on chicken and rice.
Sure.
So anyway,
I need to put up an icon that says chicken and rice equals, and then like a needle.
biceps or something.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was the first time that outside, because in LA, as fast paced as it is and everything. I mean, you and I never had a chance to look out at anyone else other than what's right in front of us. You know, as far as like I got this audition here, I got to do this here, I got this.
That's
here.
that survival mode. Good
100%.
or bad. It's yeah.
Yeah, but so in that industry, like I said, the ladies that were writing these books, when it came time for their wardrobe, I saw that their body dysmorphia was just as equal to mine. So it could go with guys looking to get veins in their abs, or women that are overweight that are just getting a costume that feel shamed. I guess you could say. I think that's the word. They feel shame in telling what the sizes really are. And it's a thing that I guess if we're gonna try to put a bow tie on this, I would say when it comes to body dysmorphia, like no one is safe. The entire gamut of people from the obese to the shredded all deal with some facet of psychosis.
Well, I think it's interesting when you were saying that. It's interesting, and I know we got to wrap this up for you, but like I know it's interesting because at the end of the day, for any one of these people we're talking about, the reference point at which they're basing their goals and or body dysmorphia consciously or subconsciously on by not achieving it is essentially. And again, I don't know what I'm saying. I don't have an answer. It's essentially a guilty conscience. It's like at the end of the day, and I compared it to in the podcast, a sport. If I lose a game, I'm going to beat myself up because my standard was to have a higher point than the other team. So if I feel bad and lie about me not winning, this is impossible. But if I'm like, oh yeah, I totally won that game. That's the same as them lying about their weight because they have. It's a guilty conscience, and it's a societally enforced, possibly guilty conscience, because ignorance is bliss. If we didn't have a reference point, or we didn't create a reference point, or society wasn't pushing a reference point on us, we wouldn't know otherwise. Mm-hmm. So again, it goes back to
it continues to get worse too. It's getting worse because of social media. Like the one thing that blew me away. Do you watch Cobra Kai?
Yeah, I haven't watched the last couple seasons, but I watched I think the first 2.
Yeah, I just started picking it up. Anyway, point is that I don't care when it comes to 80s nostalgia, man. Yeah. Sign me up. I'm on. Sure. I don't care if it's bad to me. It's just it's drinking that.
Oh, I was in line for almost all of the Expendables movies for that reason. Just I will turn my brain off and watch some dumb shit.
Brother, same page. But I remember watching, I think it was the first or second season, the girl, she was the black girl. She's kind of a big girl.
Oh yeah.
And I remember they were shaming her. There was something where she like went up to the buffet and was getting something at a party they were in, and some girl like took a video, and you know how they put those filters on it?
Yep.
They had her like with little piggy nose on it and oink, 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 and all this. And like all the kids are sitting around and like they all like their phones ding or whatever, and they're all looking and they're like, look, as she literally is 20 feet from them at the buffet. They're looking at the phones, laughing at
the
her.
live mockery.
Again, I'm old school. I get it. But I'm like, this is insane how instead of like back when you and I were kids walking up, be like, for me, it was I was fat, dude. I hate Fat Foster. And that's one thing is like when someone calls me Foster, I don't care. I mean, I don't care what you call me, I guess, except that foster
It
thing
feels
for me was always
dismissive.
just like, it just,
Yeah.
it's not, and it reminds me of the fat foster days.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just like, you know
Well,
what I
back in
mean?
our day, and this will be our conclusion, we got 3 minutes, is the bullying and or the reference points, there were less chances of it. And if somebody teased you, it was like face to face. Now the tool, these kids, to say the old man thing, they've weaponized just the sheer numbers is baffling. And
They can
like,
hide behind this.
yeah, like you and I call it the BCAD of social media, is like your kid knows only internet. You and I know pre-internet. So we have a reference point for like, people might have made fun of me. I don't know. I was not popular. I wasn't in a group. I was just kind of like, I'm probably no different than now. I was just kind of like the social gray man, like not anywhere. They might have made fun of me behind my back and I don't know. So I'm fortunate. But if they did, it was micro. It was just a one-off compared to the internet, like, you know. And so like, that's all your daughter's ready to, that's all she has. And that is a fascinating, like for me, ignorance is bliss, because she'll be probably more mentally strong because that's her norm. You and I are like, we're incapable cavemen going, we didn't have all this stuff. How do we bully came to face and made fun of. Now that she's, you know, so like we don't probably have the resiliency your kid has. So I don't know. We got to wrap it up.
Well, I will tell you this. Can I say one last thing?
Yeah, this is on your schedule.
Well, yeah, I'm looking here. I got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
The thing, you want to hear the scariest 3 words in Mike Foster's life growing up as a kid? It's a gym class. Take a guess.
Hit the showers.
Well, that's a whole nother story there too. But remember Groundhog Day? I was short, but I sprouted. Let's just say that going in there at my 7th grade, the first time it was a mass group shower. Let's just say that Mikey's voice hadn't dropped yet. So it was like, you know, it was terrible. But no, whenever I would hear the coach say shirts or skins.
Oh yeah, man, that was the instant way to make you insecure. Yeah.
It was horrible. And then it was because, again, and not only was I fat, but I mean, I had tits, and it was just terrible. Like that was like, oh, you have no idea. That literally like that's the stuff that kept me up at night. You know?
Absolutely. Well, I know you got to go into this. Is very formal, but Mike and I are really informal friends. Genuinely, thank you. We're gonna have like,
I really like the Land of Boz. Can I come back?
Yes, we have 30 different versions of this we need to do. So per your availability, we'll do it. But I want to have a pretty decent. Well, I got to clap here and get an edit point. Thank you. This was awesome. We barely even touched on it, but if anything, this was an introduction into the world of Mike Foster and how he interacts with Jeff Bosley, and then how we can take this into future shows and actually get into one topic at a time versus 60. But we are 2 giant guys that like squirrels and pen lights, basically. Yep. And luckily Mike has to foster, no pun intended, foster his focus, because you have a child depending on you. Whereas me, I'm like, there's no cost if I do this obsessive thing for 16 hours. Like nobody pays a price. I don't have a kid at daycare, you know, like going, where's daddy? So
right.
Thank you, dude.
Man,
this was awesome.
Dude, it has been, I've had a blast.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you're playing this to your people here, this is the first time that you and I have actually had an in-person conversation,
literally,
other than Marco Polo, because we Marco Polo all the time.
Yeah.
And this has been real. Well, I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah. Thank you. I will wrap it up. This is the thing formally. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't go away, Mike. Clap. Thank you everyone for listening. Mike Foster, he's easy to find. Michael Wayne Foster on social media. And if you just see a big tall guy, big in a good way, with long sexy hair that makes old guys like me that have had like 6 transplants jealous, you found the right account. So thank you everyone for listening to the Land of Boz with Jeff Bosley and today's special guest Michael Wayne Foster.